Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. It feels uncanny to me that I'm a lot less sure in calling things normal. If there's something that's changed for me in the past year, it's been that. It's been the inability to normalize anything. So when I see the Hot 100 look like this, with only some modest predictable shifts and not too many new arrivals, look, I want to call it normal, but I keep having that inbuilt suspicion that something is gonna happen. Now, of course, I could point to our top 10 and say, look, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, still at number 1. That's not normal. But in a way, it kind of is. The sales and streaming, they're enormous, and the radio has really surged to catch up. Incidentally, I was thinking about why this song caught on in the same way, and I kind of think I get it, even if I don't like it more. If folks have been isolating away from social interaction and drama, especially teenagers who are looking for those life events to symbolize their youth, this is a pretty detailed snapshot of it. They're living vicariously. Now, on the flip side, the spike of 34 plus 35 to enter the top 10 at number 2, thanks to spikes across the board and bigger radio, that makes all the sense in the world. Ariana Grande got Doja Cat and Megan Thee Stallion for the remix, and all the lonely people are probably horny too. Hell, thinking about Driver's License, that might have contributed to why Mood by 24K Golden featuring Ian Dior lasted so long, even as it slid down to number 3 this week as the decline has started in all channels. And then all that analysis kind of breaks down because Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, it's still at number 4. Because even as its radio will waver, the sales are rock solid and it actually rebounded on streaming. Kept it above Positions by Ariana Grande at number 5, which has never really had good sales and it's now openly bleeding on the radio, which will likely open things up for Levitating by Dua Lipa featuring DaBaby at number 6, which is up consistently across the board, probably break into the top 5 any week now. Now this puts it above Go Crazy by Chris Brown and Young Thug at number 7, yeah, consistent radio gains won't save you if that's all you've got, and Holy by Justin Bieber featuring Chance the Rapper, which slid down to number 8 even as the radio gains looks like they've stalled out again. Even more so for Bang by AJR down at number 9, where despite okay sales, the radio looks like it's finally getting tired of it. Good. Finally, holding on to its spot at number 10 thanks to enormous streaming and pretty much nothing else, radio, get on it, we have Good Days by SZA. Seriously, why are more people not getting on board with this? It's a really pretty and forward-thinking song, come on. But on the topics of frustrating disappointments, we've got our losers and dropouts, which, yes, in the latter category includes Midnight Sky by Miley Cyrus, along with Hawaii by Maluma, and BS by Jhené Aiko and Her. And since it's a week post-album bomb, a lot of our losers fall in that category, especially from Morgan Wallen with Wasted on You at 24, More Than My Hometown at 27, Somebody's Problem at 36, Still Going Down at 66, Cover Me Up at 71, Warning at 72, 865 at 74, and Dangerous at 100. Now that's also a lot more than you would otherwise expect holding on to a second week. I find that interesting. Outside of that, Best Friend by Saweetie featuring Doja Cat lost off the debut to 49. Dynamite by BTS continues to collapse at 45. It's gonna be gone soon. Mr. Right Now by 21 Savage, Metro Boomin, and Drake hit 75. And Monster by Shawn Mendes and Justin Bieber is at 67. Again, the failures of this particular album cycle are gonna deserve some real scrutiny because even I'm a little bit surprised at this point. I thought the Bieber collab would have saved this. But here's the problem. There's just not that much that's good that's filling in a lot of our gaps here, especially when we look at our returns. Yes, Hell of a View by Eric Church, that's at 99. But then we got One Too Many by Keith Urban and Pink at 98. Drankin' and Smokin' by Future and Lil Uzi Vert at 96. Lady by Brett Young at 95. Okay, that's fine. But then we got Mama's House by Dustin Lynch at 93. And Girl Like Me by the Black Eyed Peas and Shakira at 91. Now what's kind of interesting is that since we had a country album album bomb last week with about half of our returns. They're in trap, the other half of our gains are in country. So in the latter category, we got Just the Way by Parmalee and Blanco Brown at 73, Down to One by Luke Bryan at 70, Beers and Sunshine by Darius Rucker at 64, What's Your Country Song by Thomas Rhett at 60, and Happy Does by Kenny Chesney up at 57. And on the trap side, Moonwalking in Calabasas by DDG is at 89, Bus It by Erica Banks spikes up to 83 off the debut, Throat Baby Go Baby by BRS Cash is at 54. I'm kind of curious to see if that recent album release gives this more traction. I'm just not sure at this point. And another big spike for Back in Blood by Pooh Shiesty and Lil Durk at 46. And outside of that, man, a fair amount of R&B got boost too. Back to the Streets from Saweetie featuring Jhené Aiko at 58, Damaged by Her at 53, Streets by Doja Cat up considerably off the debut last week to 39, and Your Mind Still by Young Bleu featuring Drake at 32. Oh, and that terrible cover of Put Your Records On by Rip Momney is also up to 61. But I'm thinking if we don't acknowledge this exists, it's just gonna go off and die a slow death in a ditch somewhere. Here's hoping. Anyways, for a change of pace, we actually got a somewhat reasonable number of new arrivals this week. Starting off with number 97, Somebody Like That by Tenille. Okay, how to explain this one? Tenille Arts is a Canadian country singer-songwriter who has broken out in the past couple of years, gaining traction thanks to her performing her songs on The Bachelor, which helped her snag a record deal. She dropped her second album in very early 2020, and I did not get a single request to cover it. And while I've seen her name around a little bit, I'll admit to being really damn surprised that this picked up enough radio traction to chart in the United States. I mean, you haven't seen Dallas Smith or Brent Kissel crossover yet, so why her? Especially as I'm not spotting a TikTok trend or anything to put this out of the norm. Well, I checked out the song and, well, you know what, I kind of hear the appeal. The glittery guitars and the faster groove balance out pretty damn well against the clattering drums and cymbals. And while the mix isn't quite polished enough to blend in the more synthetic elements, especially in some of the vocal mixing if we're being honest here, the song also has a sense of bigness and propulsion that a lot of yearning love songs in this vein don't have in modern country, especially coming from women. And I like that the content seems a bit more mature for a slightly poppier focus. She's seen the passionate short-term love and she shed some real tears over it, but now she wants something more stable and long-term. And the song is framed to pick up the weight in order to sell it. Now, I do think there are a few moments compositionally that feel a little bit jerky, especially in the transitions from the second verse to the hook, but that's pretty minor, because overall I think this is pretty damn good. I'm happy she's got some foundation to her traction here. This is promising. Nice stuff. Number 94, Better Days by Aunt Clemons featuring Justin Timberlake. Better's ahead, better's ahead. Okay, I've seen Aunt Clemons as a name behind the scenes for a while now. He's been on a few Kanye West projects, he's been building some traction as a singer to where he put out his debut project last year and did not receive much attention for it, but now he's got Justin Timberlake behind him for this single, and it wasn't tied to the album. Instead, it was performed at the inauguration in the United States last week. So that might explain where some of the traction has come from. And you know what, it's not just him here. In between the cloud of autotune, both Lucky Day and Justine Skye have uncredited presence in the vocals, but really, the larger story seems to circle Justin Timberlake, who has by far the most distinctive voice on the song, especially given how much Aunt Clemons seems to sound like Ty Dolla $ign with a slightly higher register and less soulful power. But you know what, that lack of greater power, it's probably what holds this song back from being a lot more for me. Beyond the vague aspirations to better days on the horizon, shocker this was played at the inauguration, if you're gonna go broad, you just should go all out. Not use such a pitifully thin hand clap and limited keyboard and percussion. Or you know what, if you're going for organic intimacy, don't smother out most of the vocals in auto-tune that doesn't match or blend well with any of it. It reminds me a lot of when Justin Timberlake was working with SZA a couple years back, and then it felt really sanitized in an attempt to reclaim some cred in the most cliched and sterile way possible. And as such, I just kind of feel bad for most of the acts behind this pretty limp song. They probably deserve a lot more, because really this is just kind of forgettable, but not really good either. Number 92, De Una Vez by Selena Gomez.
Soy más fuerte sola.
You know, I had something prepared about when Latin music picks up more mainstream traction in the United States. You always get the pop acts looking to hop on the bandwagon, if only for a moment. But the more I researched things, the less I felt comfortable saying that about Selena Gomez, who even back with the scene near the beginning of the last decade, she had cut some music in Spanish for crossover, and she's been teasing the full Spanish album ever since. So after a few years of hopping on some other reggaeton songs, and hell, I still like Taki Taki even if nobody else does, she's now doing it with this lead-off single here, and honestly, I like this too. Selena Gomez says that she thinks she sounds better singing in Spanish, and I actually agree with her. She sounds more expressive and precise, and can lean into her sensuality a little bit more effectively than she often does in English, or at least she comes across as more convincing here. And I think the production is pretty good here as well. Reserved, airy synths off the sandy Latin trap percussion and the firmer bass, where it doesn't feel like a throwback thanks to a lot of Taney's work here. Hell, the guitar swells and the outro are legit really pretty, so all that's left for her to nail is a lot of the writing, where she's singing once again about an ex where she's moved on and left him behind. A lot of the exact same material that was all over Rare, talking about her healing and reconciliation process. And yet, in a bizarre way, that fixation has given her material some foundation that is uniquely hers. You wouldn't confuse this for a Karol G or Rosalia song in the content, so even if it's tired knowing Selena Gomez, kinda fits. And you know, I kinda like this song too. Number 85, Goosebumps by Travis Scott and
Come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine.
I don't get it. Travis, you already had a hit called Goosebumps with Kendrick Lamar that was a highlight of 2017, and I'm still annoyed when I saw you both on the same tour live, you didn't perform it together, so what is this now? Well, it turns out it is a Spanish house remix of the original courtesy of Hume, where I have as big of a platform as he does, as he pitches the original song down, adds a sharper, rubbery house beat in a way that reminds me way too much of the Roses remix from last year, except somehow not as good. And seriously, it's just not. The warped guitar is stripped out, the gurgling sizzle of the original atmosphere being stripped away, and again, no demented Kendrick verse, so what the hell is even the point? Plus, the original Goosebumps felt like it was in that weird sweet spot where it's too old to chase a remix that boosts chart presence, but it's not old enough where it's an interesting flip and can be retro. In other words, this should not be a hit, because this remix is not good. Next, number 84, Beatbox by SpotemGottem.
Had a standoff, hit him in the spot, knock his dreads off. Like, what is it called about it? I didn't name them random mouse.
Can I just say this is a TikTok song and move on? Or do you need me to mention how the sequel song is also blowing up courtesy of its verse from Pooh Shiesty? Because apparently he's now got that level of clout in the past few weeks. Because what is there else really to say about this fragment of a song with a barely developed piano line, a really badly mixed bass, and a single verse about shooting people and trying to get somebody's girl? Oh, holy shit, it's shot a flow again, but with somehow worse rapping. Yeah, his reference pool is thinner, and he's not as immediately mimetic beyond the opening line of the hook as Eneli Choppa was, but the flow here is considerably more jerky and barely even on beat. It feels like it's charting for a fragmented meme and on clout by association. Nothing else. Also, it sucks. Next, number 76, Undivided by Tim McGraw and Tyler Hubbard.
Let the good Lord reunite us to this country that we love's undivided.
Okay, look. I knew this was coming. I knew that at some point, given the past year, Nashville would try to push another one of these songs that's going for the message of coming together, looking past differences, and just conveniently we're dealing with the half of Florida Georgia line who is reportedly a fair bit less conservative. So now I'm just laughing at this whole thing, real coming together here. And now I could point out that the whole cries for unity without accountability to the social norms and rules that we all chose to abide by is, you know what, let's use a proper mid-1930s term, appeasement. But my larger issue is that I don't know who's gonna want to seek this song out, especially given that the audience that predominantly listens to these two. I don't know if they want this. Now, it's worth noting that Tim McGraw did not write this song. Tyler Hubbard did with a co-writer, nor did they do the sensible thing and call in Laurie McKenna to add some real teeth to it. So while it has a little bit more rollicking tempo than I expected, it's also a pretty limp song, all things considered. Hubbard and McGraw's voices clash really awkwardly. They try so hard to keep things so anti-political that they default to very basic, let's not bully people, pleas for empathy. And you know what, I'm not sure anyone told them that playing so much to the middle ground and we're all under God regardless of left and right, I'm not sure if they were told that's taking a stand, because it is, even if they don't want to admit it. Look, I will say this could have been a lot worse, but man, it feels pointless. I really hope this doesn't last, cause it's not good. Number 55, Masterpiece by DaBaby.
When I'm telling no joke, she still gon' laugh at me. Still suck my dick when she mad at me. Let a nigga make me mad, you see. I nod my head in this bitch. Them niggas gon' slide on your bitch ass for me. Bust down, Cartier, new masterpiece.
Okay, I should not find this as funny as I do, because for those of you who don't know, the masterpiece DaBaby is referring to in this song, it's not any of his albums, but his current girlfriend, Danny Lee, who as of recently has faced a lot of controversy over some colorism allegations in her new leaked song, Yellowbone. So, I'm not gonna touch that, but I will say that DaBaby pushing out a song like this at this time feels a bit like Damage Control. But the bizarre thing is that this was primed as a lead-off single for his next album anyway, and just winds up feeling like just another DaBaby song, where he talks about his girl with the same blunt, casual disregard that he talks about anyone. Now, I do have some questions though. I appreciate that she laughs at your jokes, but it seems very dangerous to have her give you oral when she's mad at you, or that you put your gun in her purse, or that you're still threatening to beat people up and shoot them, but then you reference the whole Walmart incident from 2019 as if you've got much plausible deniability there, and plus, aren't the charges, didn't they wind up getting dropped? If anything, what probably annoys me more with this is the production. Yeah, it's a lot better mixed and mastered than most DaBaby songs in the past 2 years. Thank DA got that dope for that. But the synth sounds so flat and annoying that it kind of kills any sense of vibe. I don't know, the controversy alongside the song doesn't really make it better or worse, or more or less interesting. It's a DaBaby song that's got moments, but it doesn't fit among his best, and it's a really odd fit for a lead-off single. Just kind of okay, I guess. Maybe. And finally, number 22, Batboy by Juice WRLD and Young Thug.
Please don't think it's sweet, I stay with the heat even though I'm a sad boy. You better watch the way you breathe around me for that breath be your last boy.
Okay, we've got to be close to the point where we're just getting a fragment of a Juice WRLD credit doesn't get you a guaranteed hit, right? The shelf life has got to be running out eventually, even with the Lyrical Lemonade video. See, the odd thing is that this has been existing in some form since January of last year, and as such, I'm a little bit surprised it's taken this long to get the song, especially as I think it's only okay, at best. Part of this is the production. You get Pierre throwing a noisy guitar progression behind a scrappy trap line, and yet the groove in the low end is so underwhelming? It leaves the song feeling way more turgid than either Juice WRLD or Thugger's flows can conceivably complement, especially when the entire song is about how they're such bad boys who then do the same regurgitated flexing and shooting people. You're not all that bad compared with the norm. And yeah, Young Thug somehow gets more disgusting on his verse. Why are you shooting at people's mothers? And then being a little bit too loose with between meaning shot between bullets and ejaculate. But I think my larger issue is that the song feels so clunky and assembled in post. And despite some interesting production here, it's just not doing enough with it. I mean, it's fine, I guess, but what this reminds me most of are the complaints that people had with the more abrasive production on Travis Scott's Franchise. And that song was only really elevated by the Future remix, and frankly, Don't think it's coming here. Maybe Playboy Cardi in the future, but even then I doubt it. So this week, yeah, kind of a mess. I'm certainly surprised that Tenille Arts, of all people, is taking the best of the week for somebody like that. But even more surprised that honorable mention is going to De Una Vez from Selena Gomez. Did not see that coming. Now, the worst of the week, yeah, Beatbox by SpotemGottem, but it was close to going to Undivided by Tim McGraw and Tyler Hubbard. Look, a passable groove, it's only saving an utterly misguided song that, frankly, again, who is it for? Next week, honestly, we'll probably have even less activity. There hasn't really been much unless BRS Cash somehow gets an album boost. We will have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectre Pulse. And out.